Hi everyone. I wanted to make a little video about something that interests me very greatly indeed. It may be seen as a bit of a dark subject, but it's related to this idea of container and content, something that my father spent a lot of his life trying to explain to people. Anyone who is watching this, who knows his book, The Book of the Book, will have an idea what I'm going to try to explain, perhaps. In the Occidental world, there seems to be a huge emphasis on how long you lived. Every day, when I get up in the morning, I download a newspaper, and the first thing that I turn to are the obituaries. And that's because I love reading obituaries. I love looking at one thing, looking for one thing in obituaries, and that is the points, the random points in life at which people had opportunities, but more importantly, seized those opportunities. Maybe that's a subject I'll do in another video, seizing opportunities. But in the obituaries that I tend to read, in British newspapers especially, they put very prominently in the first paragraph how old the person who had passed had been when they died. It's almost as if it's a badge of honor, living longer. And obviously, people in obituaries have lived lives of accomplishment, although of course there are some infamous people in the obituaries as well. As I go down the river of life, down the twists and turns, I become increasingly interested in the way that people are kept alive almost for the sake of it. Almost as if there's shame in exiting the world. I remember quite a while ago now, in the very, very early 2000s, I used to go to a retirement home in a place called Purley, just outside London. And I would go there to visit a great friend of mine. His name was Sir Wilfrid Thesiger. He had been fated as a great explorer of the Arabian world, the Arab world, particularly Rub al Khali, the great sand desert of the Arabian Peninsula, and the marshes in Arabia, in the Iraqi marshes of Basra. And when I would visit Wilfrid, he was in his early 90s then. But what struck me so profoundly was that a great many of the people there were not really that old at all. Some of them, were in their late 60s. But they were being kept alive for the sake of being kept alive. And that may sound kind of horrific for me to exclaim that. And I'm sure their families wanted them kept alive. In my family, there's a different emphasis. The emphasis is most certainly not on the container, but on content. It's about what you're doing in life, rather than how much life you get or you've had. My father would always point to this, that a great many people achieved enormous amounts in their lives, rather than the kind of people that Western society is trying to keep alive. He would always point to Alexander the Great, who died in his 30s, having conquered much of the known world. And indeed, my father exited when he was 72. And I remember when he had died, my sisters and I and my aunt sat together a couple of days after. And I remember my aunt, Amina, said, very stoically, she said, it was right for him to go because he had finished what he had set out to achieve. And those words have rung in my head so often in the many years now since he left, more than 25 years. And I look at it as a way of, beating the Grim Reaper in a way. So my whole take on life is that we should seize the day, seize the moment, do amazing things, do interesting things, but not outstay our welcome on this extraordinary spinning lump of rock that zips zigzag through time and space. I don't want this to seem like a downer, but I don't think there's any shame. I don't think there's any sadness, any sorrow when people move on seemingly before their time is out.